Now to the politics of this pandemic. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi highly critical of President Trump's handling of the crisis in an interview with our chief anchor, George Stephanopoulos. Take a look.
In a conference call with your caucus earlier this week, you reportedly said, "I'm afraid what the president might do during this period." What is it you're afraid of?
I'm afraid that he's going to act on the basis of what he's acted before. It's a hoax. It's magically going to disappear. And that's why I sent out the letter that I did after Easter, because Easter gave me time for reflection and prayerfulness about, okay, we don't want to keep harping on what he did wrong, because he failed. He's failed in the testing and the rest, and it's a hoax, and it's going to magically disappear. That's not based on science.
Nancy Pelosi speaking to our George Stephanopoulos. For more on this, let's bring in ABC News political analyst Matthew Dowd. Matthew, good morning. Great to see you. So in fairness, President Trump has leveled plenty of partisan attacks during the course of this crisis. But I imagine some critics may look at what we just heard the speaker say to George and accuse her of simply fueling partisanship at a time when the country needs to come together. Do you agree or disagree with that kind of charge?
Well, I agree there's way too much partisanship, but it seems to be pretty standard. We had, in the aftermath of the Great Recession 10 years ago, there was partisanship. We had partisanship in the midst of the Great Depression when FDR was trying to do certain things to help the country. So it seems pretty standard. I was hoping that in the midst of this pandemic, that we'd all put it aside and do what's in the best interest of the country at this time. The president hasn't done a good job of putting that partisanship aside, though he's done a few things over the course of the last week I think are very thoughtful and reasonable in the midst of this. But it seems like there's an impossible way, even a pandemic can't seem to stop the partisanship in the country today.
Speaking of the president, let's talk about these protests we're seeing in several states, scattered protests in states across the country. The president has seemed to signal support for the protesters. What's your take on how the president is playing this?
Well, one of the things I think in the course of this is, we don't know for sure whether this is real grassroots or astroturfs, whether it's partisan people pushing this in order to try to embarrass it seems most of them are Democratic governors, though there's protests in some Republican states like Ohio and Idaho in this. I think part of the problem, Dan, that we have today is there seems to be this gulf of empathy that some people are very empathetic for the illness and all of that's going on, and rightfully so. But then we also have to be empathetic for what's going on in people's economy, and what's happening in the states. The people that are hurt the most by this is not Wall Street. It's Main Street, and it's people that live paycheck to paycheck. So if we were a leader in a state, whether it's Michigan, Minnesota or not, you have to not only convey a sense of this horrible health crisis, but I also think you have to explain what are you going to do when the time is right to open that state up. And I think if there was more sharing of information, we'd have less of this protest and less of people getting angry about it. But again, a tremendous gulf of empathy, both on the economy and on the health crisis. And if we could bridge that, I think we'd be better off.
Yeah, let me plus one on the call for empathy for sure. There's an enormous amount of economic pain out there in the country as we try to figure out this delicate balance, as Witt called it, between reopening and dealing with the virus. Matthew, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And a reminder to see George's full interview with the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Tune into This Week later this morning. Plus, White House coronavirus coordinator Dr. Deborah Birx discusses the administration's response to the coronavirus. That's all coming up on This Week later this morning, right here on ABC.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.